So there I was, sitting at my desk on a Tuesday morning, sipping my third cup of coffee, when the email popped up. Jake, see me in my office. Now. Sent by Kevin, my so-called boss. I knew that tone. Nothing good ever followed a "see me now" from Kevin. I took my time finishing my coffee. Let him wait. The guy strutted around the office like he invented productivity, but half the time, he was just rearranging the same 3 PowerPoint slides and calling it strategy. When I finally walked into his office, he didn't even look up from his phone. Classic Kevin power move. His office smelled like cheap cologne and stale protein bars. The guy had a framed Employee of the Month certificate on his wall, from 3 jobs ago. Jake, he said, finally glancing up with that fake sympathetic look he practiced in the mirror. We're letting you go. It's not personal. I almost laughed. Not personal. This guy had been making it personal for years. See, 2 weeks earlier, Kevin had rolled out his big idea to cut costs by merging 2 of our back-end systems. I told him straight up, this will crash. I showed him the logs, the error rates, the fact that the 2 systems ran on completely different architectures. He waved me off like I was some intern who didn't know how to use Excel. Trust me, Jake, he'd said, smirking. I've been doing this a long time. And then, shocker, the whole thing blew up at 2 a.m. on a Friday. Clients couldn't access their data. Support tickets flooded in. The CEO was pissed. And what did Kevin do? He blamed me in the post-mortem meeting. Said I didn't communicate the risks clearly. I should have seen this coming. Kevin had a habit of taking credit for wins and dumping failures on his team. Last quarter, Emily in design built this killer UI overhaul. Next thing you know, Kevin's presenting it to the board like it was his idea. When the sales numbers dipped, suddenly it was Mike's faulty code that caused it. So yeah, getting fired sucked. But the worst part was how casual he was about it. Like he was telling me the break room was out of creamer. Clean out your desk by noon, he said, already turning back to his phone. HR will email you the severance details. I didn't argue. What was the point? Instead, I went back to my desk, packed up my stuff, my coffee mug, the stupid stress ball from last year's holiday party, the post-it note where I'd scribbled, Kevin's full of crap, after that last all-hands meeting. Then I pulled out my phone and texted the group chat we'd had since forever, the one with Emily, Mike, Sarah, and Chris. The people who actually kept this company running while Kevin played golf with clients. Party at my place tonight. Bring receipts. Because if Kevin thought this was the end. Oh, he had no idea what was coming. By 7:30 p.m., my apartment smelled like pepperoni pizza and revenge. I dragged my old folding table from the storage closet and covered it with every snack I could find at the corner store, chips, pretzels, even those weird cheese crackers nobody actually likes but eats anyway when they're pissed off. The 6-pack of IPA in my fridge wasn't gonna cut it, so I'd made a liquor store run for whiskey, because if ever there was a night that called for whiskey, this was it. Emily showed up first, carrying a laptop bag and a bottle of wine that probably cost more than Kevin's last strategic initiative. Her hair was piled in that messy bun she only wore when she'd been pulling all-nighters to meet one of Kevin's ridiculous deadlines. I brought the receipts, she said, dropping onto my couch with the energy of someone who'd been waiting years for this moment. Mike arrived next, looking more animated than I'd seen him in months. At work, he always had this permanent slouch from staring at code for 12 hours straight, but tonight he stood straight, clutching a thumb drive like it held nuclear codes. Wait till you see what I found in the server logs, he said, eyes gleaming behind his glasses. Sarah came in right behind him, still in her work clothes but with her HR badge flipped around backward. She tossed a manila folder on my coffee table with a thud. Official complaints, she said. Every single one Kevin made me bury. Chris was last, bursting through the door like he'd just closed the biggest deal of his life. You guys are not gonna believe this, he panted, holding up his phone. Just got the all-staff email, they're doing the 10-year anniversary party next Friday. Guess who's giving the keynote? We all groaned in unison. Of course it was Kevin. The guy couldn't pass up a microphone if his life depended on it. Emily cracked open her laptop. Remember the dashboard redesign from Q3? She pulled up two nearly identical screens. He rejected my version, called it too busy. Then presented this to the execs a week later as his own work. The only difference was his version had that stupid gradient effect he put on everything, like someone had vomited a PowerPoint theme onto it. Mike started pacing, which he only did when he was really worked up. 2 words, production database. Dude literally asked me to just tweak some numbers before the investors came. When I said that would require actual hacking, he told me I was being difficult. Sarah flipped open her folder. Here's my favorite. Kevin filed a formal complaint against me for undermining his authority when I told him to stop screaming at the interns. The kid he yelled at quit the next day. She slapped down another paper. And this one's from accounting. He's been expensing steak dinners as client meetings when it's just him and his buddies. Chris scrolled through his phone, grinning. Oh, you'll love this. Remember when he took credit for the Denver deal? The one I spent 6 months working. His exact words in the sales meeting were, "Sometimes you just have to trust your instincts like I did on this one." The pizza was getting cold, but nobody cared. We were too busy passing around stories like they were trading cards, each one worse than the last. The time Kevin made the entire dev team redo 2 months of work because he didn't like the font. The team-building retreat where he played golf while everyone else did actual work. The way he'd somehow turned synergy into a drinking game trigger word. I poured another round of drinks as Chris's phone buzzed again. He looked up, that salesman grin spreading across his face. They just sent out the party agenda. Kevin's speech is scheduled for 7:30. Right after cocktails, right before dinner. The room got quiet for a second. Then Emily slowly closed her laptop. Mike stopped pacing. Sarah set down her whiskey glass with deliberate precision. 4 pairs of eyes locked onto each other, and I didn't need to be a mind reader to know we were all thinking the same thing. This wasn't just a pity party anymore. This was war. The whiskey was gone, the pizza box was empty, and my coffee table looked like mission control for the world's pettiest corporate takedown. Sarah had spread out her HR files like a prosecutor prepping for trial. Mike's thumb drive sat next to my laptop like a tiny digital grenade. Emily was sketching something on a napkin. Knowing her, it was probably a flowchart of Kevin's impending humiliation. Chris cracked his knuckles. Okay, geniuses. How do we make sure this actually works? Sarah tapped one of her folders. I've got admin access to the shared drive. Kevin's presentation is already uploaded. Some self-congratulatory garbage called, "A Decade of Leadership." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. Mike leaned forward, that manic coder energy buzzing off him. I can clone the file, swap in our version. The metadata will still show Kevin as the owner, no way to trace it back to us. Emily snatched the napkin away before I could see it. I'll redesign his slides. Keep the same template so it looks like his work at first glance. But she mimed an explosion with her hands. Chris grinned. I'll handle the execs. Keep them distracted during setup, make sure they're front and center when the show starts. I pulled up my email, scrolling back months to the disaster project. We need proof. Not just rumors, hard receipts. Mike plugged in his thumb drive. Oh, I've got proof. The screen filled with Slack logs, emails, even meeting notes where Kevin had straight up lied. The crown jewel. A deleted message from the system crash, blame Jake if anyone asks. Say he ignored warnings. Sarah whistled. That's a smoking gun. Emily started typing furiously on her laptop. Okay, new slide deck outline, first few slides normal, lull him into false confidence. Then, she spun the screen to show us. Slide 4, Leadership Principles. Actual image, Kevin sleeping at his desk. Slide 7, Client Success Stories. Actual content, Chris's Denver deal with Kevin's name scribbled over it in MS Paint. Slide 10, Teamwork makes the dream work. Actual footage, security cam clip of Kevin yelling at an intern. We spent the next 3 hours combing through every piece of dirt. Mike dug up server logs proving Kevin had approved the doomed system merge. Sarah found expense reports for his business dinners at strip clubs, listed as vendor meetings. Even his LinkedIn wasn't safe. Emily uncovered that his Stanford MBA was from a 6-week online certificate program. By midnight, we had everything. Mike would swap the files Monday. Sarah would accidentally schedule the AV setup with the IT guy who hated Kevin. Chris would ensure the CEO had a front row seat. I saved the final slide deck as a decade of leadership, Kevin's own naming convention, because the irony was too good. As everyone headed out, Emily paused at the door. One condition. When this blows up, I get to watch Kevin's face live. I handed her my spare keycard to the office. Front and center, I promised. Game on. Monday morning hit like a bad hangover. Walking past the office for the first time since getting fired felt weird, like visiting your ex's house to water their plants. Chris had smuggled me in through the loading dock, tossing me a visitor badge with the name, John Smith, scribbled in his messy handwriting. Just act like you belong here, he muttered, straightening his tie like some corporate secret agent. The office smelled the same, stale coffee and that weird citrus cleaner they used on the carpets. Kevin was holding court by the coffee machine, bragging about his big speech to anyone dumb enough to listen. I ducked behind a cubicle wall as he waved his arms around, nearly spilling his triple-shot latte. 10 years of excellence, he was saying, like he hadn't spent 9 of those years taking credit for other people's work. Sarah caught my eye from across the room, giving me the subtlest nod before marching up to Kevin with her clipboard. AV setup confirmation, she said in that fake cheerful HR voice. I scheduled Marcus for the event. Kevin's face twisted like he'd bitten a lemon. Marcus was the IT guy who'd called Kevin a technologically illiterate clown during last year's server outage. Can't we get someone else? Kevin whined. Sorry, Sarah said, not sounding sorry at all. Everyone else is booked for the quarterly backups. She walked away before he could argue, shooting me a smirk that would have gotten us both fired if Kevin had seen it. I spent the morning camped out in an empty conference room with Mike, watching through the glass as Kevin strutted around like a peacock in an ill-fitting suit. Every time he passed by, Mike would mutter tech jargon under his breath, error 404, competence not found, or rebooting douchebag.exe, until I had to stuff my fist in my mouth to keep from laughing. Emily worked quietly at her desk, pretending to tweak marketing designs while actually perfecting our special slides. Every so often Kevin would stop behind her chair and make some useless suggestion, like, maybe make the logo bigger, or, have you tried blue instead? She'd nod along, but I could see her fingers tightening around her stylus like she wanted to stab something. The real masterpiece came at lunch when Chris bumped into the CEO near the elevators. Mr. Thompson, he said, loud enough for half the floor to hear. You're going to the anniversary party, right? Rumor has it Kevin's got something special planned for his speech. The CEO, a no-nonsense guy who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, just grunted. But Chris kept laying it on thick. He's been working on it for weeks. Says it's going to be memorable. He winked like he was in on some secret, and just like that, the bait was set. By Thursday, the tension was killing me. Kevin kept rehearsing his stupid speech in his office with the door open, like he wanted an audience. Meanwhile, Mike confirmed the file switch was ready, complete with Kevin's dumb password, Kev1NR0CKs. Seriously. Sarah had strategically placed the CEO's table right in front of the projector screen. Emily even convinced facilities to accidentally turn up the AC so Kevin would be shivering under the spotlight. The night before the party, we met up at a dive bar 2 towns over, our war room. Chris passed around printed seating charts. Mike tested the thumb drive with our final slides. Sarah had somehow gotten her hands on the catering menu and made sure Kevin's plate would have cilantro, which he was weirdly allergic to. As we clinked glasses in our last moment of peace, Emily looked around the table. Tomorrow, We watched that bastard burn. The best part? Back at the office, Kevin was probably still practicing his stupid speech, completely oblivious that his decade of leadership was about to become the decade's most epic humiliation. The banquet hall was packed tighter than a rush-hour subway when we arrived. Crystal glasses clinked, fake laughter echoed off the walls, and the smell of overpriced chicken dinners hung thick in the air. I adjusted my borrowed tie and melted into the back of the crowd, while Chris strategically positioned himself near the CEO's table. Kevin was holding court near the stage, his too-tight tuxedo jacket straining across his shoulders as he accepted backslaps from middle managers. Every few minutes, he'd check his watch like he couldn't wait to bless us all with his wisdom. At exactly 7:30, the event coordinator tapped the mic. "Please welcome our VP of Operations, Kevin Miller." The applause was polite at best, though Kevin beamed like he'd just won an Oscar. He took the stage, clearing his throat with that obnoxious ahem he always did before meetings. The first slide popped up behind him, the company logo with "A Decade of Leadership" in that god-awful gradient font he loved. 10 years ago, he began, puffing out his chest, "I joined this company with a vision." I held my breath as his speech droned on. He hit all his usual buzzwords: synergy, paradigm shift, disruptive innovation, each one making my eye twitch. The first 3 slides were exactly as planned, boring corporate fluff that lulled him into false security. Then came the transition slide. Kevin gestured dramatically. "And that's why under my leadership." Click. The screen changed. A single slide titled, "Kevin's Greatest Hits," in bright red Comic Sans, Mike's touch. The room's chatter died instantly. First image, his email blaming me for the system crash, with his original message highlighted: "Jake refused to implement my vision properly." Kevin froze mid-sentence, his mouth hanging open like a broken marionette. Click. Side-by-side images, Emily's original dashboard design next to Kevin's stolen version with his handwritten notes, "Make it look different enough." A gasp went through the crowd. Emily's intern actually dropped her fork with a loud clatter. Click. A Slack screenshot, Kevin telling Mike to "just fudge the numbers" before the investor meeting. The CEO's head snapped up from his dessert. Kevin was frantically jamming the clicker, but the slides kept coming. Expense reports for his business dinners. The security footage of him screaming at interns. His fake Stanford certificate. The room erupted. "What is this?" Kevin shrieked, his face turning the same purple as his ugly tie. He whirled toward the AV booth where Marcus gave him a slow, sarcastic thumbs up. "Who did this?" Kevin screamed, spit flying. His eyes darted around the room, landing on our table just as Chris gave him a mock salute. The CEO stood up so fast his chair toppled over. "Kevin," he said in that quiet, dangerous voice only billionaires can pull off, "my office. Now." As Kevin stumbled off the stage, knocking over a water glass in his panic, the room exploded into chaos. The CFO was yelling at the CTO. The marketing team was passing around a phone showing the slide someone had already leaked to the company chat. And me? I just leaned back in my chair, sipping my drink, watching the beautiful disaster unfold exactly as planned. For one beautiful, frozen moment, the entire banquet hall was silent except for the sound of Kevin's heavy breathing through the microphone. Then all hell broke loose. The CEO, Richard Thompson, a man who usually moved with the calm precision of someone who charged $1,000 per minute, was halfway to the stage before Kevin could blink. "My office," he repeated through clenched teeth. "Now." Kevin's hands flapped like panicked birds. "Richard, this is clearly some sort of malicious hack." That's when Sarah stood up, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she marched toward them with her HR folder. "Actually," she said in that sweet but deadly tone we all knew meant someone was about to get wrecked, "we have documented evidence of policy violations going back 18 months. She flipped open the folder right there on the podium. "Would you like to start with the expense reports or the harassment complaints?" At the AV booth, Mike, beautiful, brilliant Mike, had connected his laptop to the live stream. The entire company Slack channel was blowing up with real-time reactions as he screen-shared the rest of our evidence. I saw at least 3 people pull out their phones to record when the security footage of Kevin screaming at interns started playing. Chris, the magnificent bastard, was casually leaning against the bar with his phone held up. Just documenting the company culture for our social channels, he told a horrified marketing VP while clearly live-streaming the whole meltdown. Kevin looked like a cornered animal, sweat stains spreading under his arms. This is an ambush. I demand to know who's behind this. His wild eyes landed on me in the back. You. This has your fingerprints all over it, you bitter little. The CEO cut him off with a hand chop through the air. Enough. He turned to the stunned crowd. Everyone, please enjoy dessert while the executive team handles this. Then to Kevin, in a voice so cold it could have frozen lava, you don't speak another word until we're behind closed doors. As Kevin stumbled off the stage, knocking over a water glass in his panic, the room exploded into chaos. The CFO was yelling at the CTO. The marketing team was passing around a phone showing the slide someone had already leaked to the company chat. And me? I just leaned back in my chair, sipping my drink, watching the beautiful disaster unfold exactly as planned. For one beautiful, frozen moment, the entire banquet hall was silent except for the sound of Kevin's heavy breathing through the microphone. Then all hell broke loose. The CEO, Richard Thompson, a man who usually moved with the calm precision of someone who charged $1,000 per minute, was halfway to the stage before Kevin could blink. My office, he repeated through clenched teeth. Now. Kevin's hands flapped like panicked birds. Richard, this is clearly some sort of malicious hack. That's when Sarah stood up, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she marched toward them with her HR folder. Actually, she said in that sweet but deadly tone we all knew meant someone was about to get wrecked, we have documented evidence of policy violations going back 18 months. She flipped open the folder right there on the podium. Would you like to start with the expense reports or the harassment complaints? At the AV booth, Mike, beautiful, brilliant Mike, had connected his laptop to the live stream. The entire company Slack channel was blowing up with real-time reactions as he screen-shared the rest of our evidence. I saw at least 3 people pull out their phones to record when the security footage of Kevin screaming at interns started playing. Chris, the magnificent bastard, was casually leaning against the bar with his phone held up. Just documenting the company culture for our social channels, he told a horrified marketing VP while clearly live-streaming the whole meltdown. Kevin looked like a cornered animal, sweat stains spreading under his arms. This is an ambush. I demand to know who's behind this. His wild eyes landed on me in the back. You. This has your fingerprints all over it, you bitter little. The CEO cut him off with a hand chop through the air. Enough. He turned to the stunned crowd. Everyone, please enjoy dessert while the executive team handles this. Then to Kevin, in a voice so cold it could have frozen lava, you don't speak another word until we're behind closed doors. That was the most unprofessional, childish, reckless stunt I've ever seen in 20 years of running companies. He finally looked up. And frankly, long overdue. My shoulders unclenched for the first time in months. We're restructuring operations, he continued, sliding a folder across the desk. Your old position, plus oversight of the dev team. Salary bump, stock options, and, he added with the ghost of a smile, direct reporting to me instead of through whatever middle manager we stick down there. I must have looked stunned because Thompson actually chuckled. What? You didn't think I knew about Kevin's bullshit? I just needed proof that wouldn't get us sued. He tapped the folder. HR found 17 policy violations in their investigation. 17. Walking back through the office, the whispers followed me like a wake. Kevin's old team avoided eye contact. The junior staffers grinned behind their monitors. Then I saw him. Kevin sat in a basement cubicle near the server room, the fluorescent lights washing out what was left of his dignity. His nameplate was half the size of everyone else's. When he noticed me, his face twisted like he'd bitten into something sour. Morning, Kevin, I said cheerfully. Heard about the reassignment. Must be, what's the word you always used? A growth opportunity. The vein in his forehead pulsed dangerously as I walked away, whistling. That afternoon, my new team surprised me with a promotion party, in the break room, complete with a cake iced to look like my old badge crossed out with a red X. As Mike handed me a slice, he nodded toward the stairwell where Kevin was skulking past. Think he'll last a month down there? Sarah smirked. I've got $20 says he quits by Friday. I took a bite of cake, savoring the sweetness. Nah. Let him stay. Every time he walks by my new office, I want him to remember. Exactly how he got demoted to the basement, Emily finished. We clinked coffee mugs as, somewhere in the building, a certain former VP slammed a filing cabinet hard enough to rattle the walls. Best promotion ever.